Hello everyone, Chris here, and today we really need to talk about something that needs to stop in Dead by Daylight. We have to talk about a word that has been thrown left and right for so long, it's lost its meaning completely. And the word I'm talking about is tunneling. Now, I would consider myself a pretty fair killer. I would consider myself a pretty nice killer. In almost every single match I play, I intentionally go for 2-hooking everyone before I start killing them. Now, just to make it clear, that is my choice of how I want to play the game. So, I never camp, I never slug for the 4K, and I never tunnel. Well, I thought I never tunnel, but apparently I do tunnel. Why? Because the term tunneling is so overused. It is so common for players to scream tunneling that honestly, it's lost all its meaning. Players tend to scream tunneling every chance they get, and I'll be honest, I'm getting really tired of it. Now, first, let's just try to define tunneling, as it seems people have many different views on what tunneling actually is. Now, there isn't really any clear definition of what tunneling means, but the most common explanation of it is when a killer singles out one survivor and focus all their attention on them. That means as soon as they are unhooked, they will purposely and knowingly go after that survivor right off the hook to down them again, hook them, then rinse and repeat until that survivor is out of the game. Often the killer will ignore other survivors on their way to get to that specific survivor. My personal opinion on tunneling is that I fucking hate it. It is boring and by no means necessary to win a match of Dead by Daylight. My belief is that the people who say this have this weird idea that you are supposed to win every single match of Dead by Daylight as a killer. Don't worry, it's okay to lose from time to time. But this idea of tunneling being absolutely necessary to win is, in my opinion, one of the biggest lies in Dead by Daylight. But, as I said, tunneling is when killers purposely and knowingly go after a recently unhooked survivor in means of getting them out of the game as fast as possible. That means if you get unhooked and accidentally run into the killer, no, that killer is not obliged to ignore you just because you were the last hooked survivor. No, the killer doesn't have to ignore you if you run up to him with your off the record. And when the exit gates are powered, the term tunneling and camping for that sake does not exist. Though, just to be clear, these are just my personal opinions and is by no means community rules or guidelines. Now, the reason I make this video now is due to two incidents during one of my latest streams where I was called out for tunneling. And I just wanted to take a look at those two games to break it down and take a look if I was in the wrong or not. Please feel free to express your opinions in the comments below if you agree or disagree. Now, I'm not going to show you the whole game, but I'll try to paint a picture of why I'm doing what I'm doing and the reasoning behind it, so you can have a good understanding of my choices. So, in the first match we are at RPD. Now, this was a survivor map offering, and my killer instinct told me it was Claire that brought the map offering, since she seemed very confident and comfortable on this map. Hence, I ignored her as I know I would have wasted an incredible amount of time trying to chase her. So at one point in the match, I downed this Taliyah. After hooking her, I went to look for other survivors, but couldn't find anyone. I heard her getting unhooked, and on my way I saw Claire, and as I said, there is no way I'm chasing that one. So I see some scratch marks and start following them, but didn't really pay attention to the bloodstains on the floor as I'm still really bad at looking for those. So it turned out I was following Taliyah again, and since I already wasted so much time, I decided to hook her again. Yes, I hooked her twice in a row, even though that was never my intentions. But I can see how this could come across as tunneling. Well, for the rest of the match, I ignored Taliyah and Claire for that sake, and I managed to hook Feng, then Jake, then Feng again. So at this point, I had hooked both Jake, Feng, and Taliyah twice each. I then found Feng going back to the same gen she's been going back at for the entire game, and I hooked her and she was out of the game. Now, as we got down to one gen left, I started chasing Taliyah. Claire kept body blocking, and I would have loved getting a free down on her right here, but I already stalked her completely, so I couldn't tear up using hers. So I kept moving. I could of course chase Claire instead at this point, but what would you honestly do in this situation? Start a new chase with a survivor who have 0 hooks, or chase the survivor who is injured and on death hook. Eventually, as the final gen is done, I find Taliyah and Claire together, and I use Taliyah to tear up and down Claire, and then go for Taliyah to down her and hook her. Well, it ended up being a 3k, and afterwards Taliyah came into my chat and accused me of tunneling, before calling me the old classic slur, a rat. Well, maybe to some degree, according to others' definitions of the word tunneling, I tunneled her when I hooked her twice in a row. But is it tunneling when you ignore the survivor until the endgame again? And that is a genuine question, people. Now, the other incident, and by far the most outrageous one, happened in this match. Let's just turn time forward till we are just about to enter the endgame. At this point, I had 4 hooks, which I frankly was pretty happy with considering my build and the map. So I hooked this Mikaela just as the last gen popped and the exit gates are powered. I downed the Leon and hooked him as well. At that point, Mikaela is unhooked and running into me. I injure her, but don't bother following her. Already at this point, I could perform 2 of the greatest sins a killer can do. Camp someone in the endgame, as I could just camp Leon at this point, or tunneling Mikaela right off the hook. I decide to do neither. Leon then gets unhooked by Ash, and once again I could just as easily have gone for Leon, but I decide to go for Ash instead. He goes down and I hook him. Once again, I could just camp out the hook, but I decide to leave instead and check the gates. I don't find anyone, and Ash gets unhooked in the meantime. I go back to the hook hoping to find the unhooker, but see Ash running straight into me. I make the fatal decision of downing Ash again, forever being branded a tunneler. The Leon almost got a flashlight save, which could be epic, but misses the mark by a millisecond. And so Ash dies and the 3 other escapes. Now, surprisingly to me, Ash comes into my chat and tells me with a perfect Yoda impression that I need to grow up, since I went for him in the end there. The Leon also came into the chat saying he agreed with Ash that I was in the wrong. Now, my main problem with situations like this, or players like this, is that in 99% of the cases, you are met with a total absence of rational or logical thinking. You can try to reason with them, you can try to explain why you did what you did, or even if they are completely delusional about the situation, talking about scenarios that didn't even happen, and you bring up a playback of the game and show them what happened, they will still stick to their absurd points, and that's the main issue. I have no problem with having a discussion about what happened in a game. Like, Jesus Christ, I welcome it. But the people that come into my chat and in other people's chats or in any endgame chat are not there to have a discussion. They are there to tell their opinions, also called the truth. And you will never, ever, ever convince them otherwise. So it's a complete waste of time. How many times have I asked someone, what would you do as a survivor or killer in that situation? You never get an answer. Never. It's such a simple question. So, a killer camps a survivor in the endgame as the endgame collapse have started. They get called a fucking camper and a piece of shit in the endgame chat. And they can politely ask, what was I supposed to do? You will never get a rational answer. I also want to point out that this video isn't just about survivors using the term tunneling left or right, it's about players refusing to see both sides of a given scenario. It's about the unwillingness of trying to understand the other side, or just listening to it for that sake. It's about players not willing to have a civilized discussion and just turns to slur and personal attacks instead. Like, God, having a civilized discussion could actually solve things and even contribute to some personal growth. No, please, God no. This video could just as well be about all the killers who call survivors gen rushers, when in fact they spent the first 5 minutes of the game chasing the same survivor. In 9 out of 10 cases, it is not gen rushing, it's a lack of killer pressure. Sorry to burst your bubble. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video as these two lost incidents were just so far-fetched and out of reality that I just had enough. I had to call it out even though I know this video won't change anything. But I feel I've gotten it off my shoulders, so at least I feel better. Hopefully for the future, players have the ability to take a step back, breathe for a couple of seconds, and try to take a rational standpoint of what just happened before throwing out accusations, slurs, or going straight for the attack. But I'm not holding my breath. See ya.